CD Projekt Red worked some amazing magic with their Witcher trilogy, and with The Witcher 4 officially in development, a lot of fans are eager to get their hands on whatever Witcher related content they can in the meantime. There's been a lot of talk about the confirmed remake of the first Witcher game, and I personally can't wait to see what the team is cooking up with that reimagining of where everything started. Now recently, CDPR held an investors meeting where we got some pretty interesting details about The Witcher 1 remake, including an update on the game's development and the highly anticipated release date. So today we're going to go over everything we know so far about The Witcher 1 remake, including gameplay overhauls, release dates, and a lot more. We have a lot to cover, so check the video chapters for easy viewing. Also, don't forget to enter the PS5 giveaway. Those details are in the pinned comment, and let's get started. So let's first talk about the development. The Witcher 1 remake will not actually be developed in-house by CD Projekt Red. Instead, it's being worked on by a studio called Fool's Theory under the close supervision of CDPR. Fool's Theory is a relatively new studio, but its CEO is actually a former CDPR developer who worked on both The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3. So they absolutely have some experienced minds leading the project. And again, CDPR is going to be supervising the entire thing, so it's not like the remake is going to be shipped out to a random studio with no connection to the original trilogy. When The Witcher 1 remake was announced with Fool's Theory running the project, there was some concerns, but those were quickly dispelled after the fact that, the CEO worked on the previous Witcher games, and Fool's Theory has already worked on some pretty well-known projects like Baldur's Gate 3. It's also been confirmed that the remake is being developed on a modified version of Unreal Engine 5, which is still currently in development by the main CDPR team with the help of Epic Games. Now, Unreal Engine 5 is one of the most well-known and developer-friendly engines on the market right now, technical issues notwithstanding. So the remake should look absolutely amazing and hopefully do a great job of bringing the original game's dark, gritty atmosphere to a new generation. There's been a bit of confusion as to how far along the Witcher remake is in development, but not too long ago, CDPR actually gave us an update on where everything is at. Now, during their quarterly earnings call a few weeks ago, CDPR confirmed that the Witcher 1 remake is in early development and is still several years away from completion, but the reasoning was pretty interesting. CDPR has stated that they are making a ton of technical advancements for The Witcher 4, and they're working closely with Fool's Theory to implement those advancements in The Witcher 1 remake as well. So the two projects are kind of being worked on alongside one another. It was confirmed during the investors meeting that a portion of Fool's Theory team has been temporarily assigned to The Witcher 4, which will allow for CDPR to refine development pipelines and asset creation workflows, all with the goal of streamlining the production while also preparing Fool's Theory for its future work on The Witcher 1 remake. So rather than Fool's Theory developing the remake independently, CDPR is currently structuring its production pipeline so that both The Witcher 1 remake will directly benefit from the technology, the gameplay mechanics, and various other optimizations that will be introduced in The Witcher 4 during that development time, ensuring that they keep a high level of polish and efficiency during its development. So for example, let's say CDPR works on this really impressive lighting enhancement or something like that, then that technology will be easily carried over to The Witcher 1 remake, and it will allow Fool's Theory to have access to that as well. Essentially, they want to make sure that the engine is perfectly fine and squared away before passing it on to Fool's Theory to work on. So I'm expecting most of, if not all of, the crazy technical advancements being made on The Witcher 4 to be carried over to the remake of The Witcher 1, so the games will be more or less on the same level in terms of visual fidelity. So with that being said, we can expect the remake will look just as good, if not better, than what we saw in The Witcher 4 teaser a few months ago. So with this game being a full from the ground up remake, the question that everyone wants to know is what kind of changes can we expect to the overall gameplay? So the moment-to-moment gameplay is going to be drastically overhauled from the original. In case you guys forgot, the first Witcher game was a PC exclusive that was released all the way back in 2007, and it really played like a PC exclusive. The controls were extremely intricate, and the depth actually turned quite a few people off from finishing it. The Witcher 2 and 3 greatly simplified and streamlined the gameplay formula, but the original game is still a PC exclusive because it's basically not playable on a controller with how complicated it is, which that will be the first major overhaul with the remake. But with that being said, what else can we expect? Well, the next thing is the open world design. The original Witcher game used a closed world structure with segmented areas and long loading screens. The remake will adopt a fully open world format similar to other games on the market. The Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt obviously was semi-open world. There was big zones that were really massive, but for the Witcher 1 remake, we can expect the full game to be open world without any loading screens. So yeah, if you played the Witcher 1 remake, just imagine that location of Vizima and the surrounding areas, but rather than being a closed world structure, it's going to be fully seamless open world. But what about the combat? So it's believed that the Witcher 1 1's remake is going to feature a gameplay and combat loop that's very similar to what we've seen in other Witcher games, and it will likely be the most similar to The Witcher 4 because, you know, it's being developed after that using the gameplay and enhancements that they make with The Witcher 4, which will likely be an evolution of the real-time open world gameplay of The Witcher 3. Now, Witcher 3's combat does get some criticism from gamers nowadays, but I never actually agreed with a lot of the major stones that get thrown at The Witcher 3. There's a lot of intricacies to the combat, like the magic, the gadgets, and other type parry timing that you have access to dispatch groups of enemies. Like, it's not as refined as something like, for instance, Elden Ring, but that game is very much a combat-based RPG. But honestly, if you compare anything to Elden Ring, like, obviously Elden Ring's combat is one of the best systems that we've had in gaming history almost. The remake of Witcher 1 will likely feature some kind of evolution of The Witcher 3's combat loop, but a bit slower, so the team can adapt and modernize all of the crazy mechanics that were in the 2007 original. So I wouldn't expect a really fast-paced borderline hack and slash combat pacing of The Witcher 3, but the controls and mechanics will likely be very similar. Again, like I said before, I think that whenever it comes to The Witcher 4 versus the remake, I think those games will play more similar because of all of the different upgrades that we will see featured in The Witcher 1. And that's not to mention the engine as well. Like, this is going to be an Unreal Engine 5 game versus a Red Engine game, which is yet another reason why the combat will play more like The Witcher 4 most likely than it will The Witcher 3, which this right here is obviously a big concern that I have about The Witcher 4. Like, the fact that it is on a new engine has me concerned that it's not going to play like a Witcher game, but that's one of the reasons why they're using a modified version of Unreal 5 to kind of Witcherify the engine to make it feel like the Witcher games, which that's another reason why we're going to have to wait a long time for The Witcher 1 remake, because it will be releasing after Witcher 4, but we'll talk more about that in just a bit. Now, I've seen some people online take all of the information from the earnings call as confirmation that The Witcher 1 remake is essentially going to be a reskinned version of The Witcher 4, basically like an expansion pack sequel. However, I don't think this is necessarily true. While I do think the combat is going to be overhauled to play similarly to The Witcher 4, I do think that Fool's Theory is going to be putting a lot of work into incorporating elements of the original game's combat loop into The Witcher 4 formula wherever they can. I think it's undeniable that the games will look very similar to one another in terms of graphic fidelity and art style, and the actual real-time combat will likely be similar, but everything else is going to be very distinct in my opinion. Think about how Fallout New Vegas is basically just Fallout 3, but with a bunch of crazy twists. That seems to be the situation that we're looking at for The Witcher 4 and The Witcher 1 remake. The Witcher 1 remake is going to be built off of the foundation of The Witcher 4, but as much as I do have concerns, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play exactly the same as one another. Now, sure, the remake is going to be very different from the original 2007 game, but that's kind of the point of doing a remake like this. And it's not like the original game is going anywhere, right? So if you don't like the direction the remake is going, you can always just boot up the original on GOG. Now let's talk about the release window and just the overall release date situation. Well, since CDPR is passing down their technical advancements to Fool's Theory for the game's remake, I think it's safe to assume that The Witcher 4 will be the one to drop first, which we kind of already know that's happening, and then the remake will drop probably maybe a year, 2 years after that. So for example, if The Witcher 4 drops sometime in 2027, possibly 2028, we shouldn't expect to see The Witcher 1 remake until late 2028 or early 2029 at the absolute earliest. Although I'm personally expecting The Witcher 4 to drop in 2028, which would put The Witcher 1 remake around 2030. In fact, if we take what CDPR is saying here at face value, that would kind of imply that The Witcher 1 remake isn't even going to enter full production until after The Witcher 4 is nearly completed, which is why the wait will be closer to 2 years between the games. So hunker down, because we are in for a pretty long wait here. That being said, the earnings call also confirmed that CDPR is prioritizing game stability and development satisfaction before release dates, likely in an attempt to avoid another Cyberpunk 2077 situation. Cyberpunk was obviously launched way too early, and that did a lot of damage to CDPR's reputation that they're still recovering from. However, now that Cyberpunk has been fixed and CDPR restored a lot of faith from gamers around the world, they know they could take their time with future projects, which means they're not going to be rushing their team at all this time around. So yeah, I wouldn't expect The Witcher 1 remake until after The Witcher 4, which will launch probably in 2027, 2028-ish, which is unfortunate, but I would rather have a complete experience for The Witcher 4 and a fully polished experience for The Witcher 1 remake rather than a rushed product that ends up not being what we all wanted. But yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. Are you excited for The Witcher 1 remake? Are you concerned about it at all? Let me know down below. Also, hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe with your noties on, and until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.